My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Christiani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am joined by Peter McMahon. So he is a psychotherapist and a subtle energy Radiesthesia. I think I got it right. So he's had 23 years experience working as a psychotherapist with unconscious processes to help people. He has also combined it with Radiesthesia, which is a subtle energy work to help people with physical issues by testing the different planes of nature, including physical, vital, emotional, mental, and spiritual. He then helps energetically harmonise the issue on that plane of nature. So I'm very excited to learn about this, Peter, and thank you for being on the show.
Right. Yeah, radiesthesia is a term that not many people are familiar with. It comes back to the bulk of the work of it was done by the French and the Germans, mostly the French and Germans, and back in the 30s. And so they did a lot of work in detecting different frequencies or wave bands. And so a lot of the work, you're using a pendulum, but not in the same way that most people use pendulums. So another term for radiesthesia is physical dowsing or physical radiesthesia. Whereas when people use pendulums, and it's the first way I learned to use a pendulum is by programming it and for yes and no, and then asking it questions to get different responses. Whereas with radiesthesia, there's no question asking at all. There's no programming a pendulum. So the skill in it is really to stay clear, to keep your mind absolutely clear. And it's where you put your attention. And it's really about exercising and developing a new organ, really, an organ that we all have to be able to detect different things. But we do it in a very specific way. So the two French guys, it was Chemarayam, I can never remember how to say his name, Debellet, how do I say his name?
You're just doing this. Yeah, you're just testing us this evening.
Yeah, Chemarayam and Debellet. And they did a lot of work in testing the different wave bands. So we're all familiar with the different colors. So we have the color wheel. Yeah. But when you take in the full 12 color bands, that we include the invisible colors like infrared, black, white, and ultraviolet, and another one which is called negative green. I'm not sure if you're familiar or have heard of that term before.
No.
So on the full spectrum of colors, you'll have green at the top, and the one on the opposite of that wheel is called negative green. They just called it negative green because it's the opposite of green. If it doesn't present as a visible color, and it sits in between black and white. So if it was going to be any color, it would be gray, but it's not any color. And so physical radiesthesia, one of the ways of using it is by detecting all those different bands. So all of those colors have different qualities, and they will correlate with different qualities in terms of the human body, that sort of thing. So a lot of color therapy is based on those same qualities of color. Yeah. And physical radiesthesia is learning how to detect it. And then there's also horizontal waves and vertical waves. And the horizontal waves are very beneficial. The vertical usually are pretty detrimental.
Okay, so from my understanding, I'm just trying to put it together so I can
piece it all
visualize
together.
it.
I know there's a bit.
Yeah. So the pendulum helps navigate to what aspect of the color spectrum isn't in alignment. Is that right?
Okay. Well, there's different pendulums to use. So when I'm working with a person to help them with physical things, I'm usually using what's a neutral pendulum, most of the time not working with the full spectrum of colors. So what I do is I use it to connect to a person's personal wavelength. Yeah. So typically I would use a very neutral pendulum, which is just a ball. Yep. That's just made out of acrylic or some sort of plastic. There are other types which connect to the different planes. This is also a neutral pendulum, but because of the shape quality, it will connect to different planes of physical, vital, emotional, mental. But essentially, I tune it to a person's personal wavelength. So I would start off by focusing my attention. So if I was to work with you, what I've got, I have the string at very, to nothing, and I just put it in a search position, which is backwards and forwards. Now, if I just focus my attention on you, then this stays in the search position until some point. It's like I'm tuning an antenna, yeah, and there now it's started to do a clockwise spin. So now I've got that tuned to your personal wavelength,
Oh, very cool. So yeah,
right?
I get what you mean by it's tuning
So this
in and
isn't a
then
yes or a no that I have here. I've just got
yeah,
a connection to you.
yeah.
Yeah. Now I can do that by looking at you, or I can do it with I don't have to have the person in front of me. I can just get what's called a witness, get a piece of paper and get some oil off their skin and have that piece of paper and tune into it in the same way.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Yep.
Or a photo, so a
Yeah.
lot of distance healers will ask to send a photo,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so same thing, I could use a photo or a bit of blood or some part of, or a fingernail, some part of that person. Yeah. And then I can tune into it.
Yeah.
Then what we can do with that is a whole number of things. And this, I guess the whole skill of radiesthesia is once again to not have any ideas about things. It's so easy to auto suggest
Mm. Yeah, bring your own
results.
thoughts and
Yeah.
feelings into it.
And all you're
Yes.
really
Yeah.
picking up then is your own thought pattern. Yeah. And so that's the skill is to practice and practice to get your mind clear. And so that you tune into, because the human body, my body becomes the instrument. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
part of, so it
Yeah.
creates a circuit. So if I was to help someone with a physical problem, what I would do is probably go through an anatomy chart. So you have things like, just your standard old
Yeah.
anatomy chart with
Yeah.
all the different parts and all of that. Typically, I would then have their witness sitting on the table next to me. Even if someone is in session with me, I prefer to just use the witness because it's easier. And then I can go through with my attention through the anatomy chart. I'll usually use a wooden pointer or something to point. And once again, I have to be clear on not suggesting to myself where the problem
Mm.
lies.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what will happen is if we come to a part of the body where there's something that's out of balance, let's say I'm connected to your personal wavelength and it's going clockwise. If I get my attention on some part where there's something out of balance, it will either slow down. I'm doing this on purpose now, or it will go back to a search position, or it will go anti-clockwise. It will
Yeah.
do something. Yeah. I'm just going to plug my computer in.
That's okay. So I guess, Peter, from being a channel, when I channel for people, I understand what you mean by you have to be clear, because I have to constantly check in to make sure that that's not me, they're not my thoughts, they're
Yeah.
not my impression and what's coming through. And like you said, you do become the vessel because you're just getting the information through you rather than trying to put your spin on things. I don't know if it's the same for you, because sometimes I will get I call it a pre-download. And it's like almost when the person comes in, I'll already have been given information. And then when I do the channel, I'm like, okay, is this based on what I've assumed or the pre-download, or is this actually and I have to be really careful and check in. So I get what you mean by you have to stay clear, because otherwise your own impression and your own thoughts start to impact the information coming through. But
Yeah.
yours sounds a lot more complicated than what I do.
It's so interesting though, because if I'm especially not using this pendulum so much, but using the other neutral pendulum, which, as I said, connects
Yeah.
to different planes of nature, this is really useful. It's still neutral, and I still use the same technique, but it can detect problems that haven't become physical yet.
Like the underlying emotional charge behind them.
Or even where they're just existing potentially.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as a potential. To give an example, I had a client was seeing me, and we were working. She was seeing me for psychotherapy work, and also I do treatments with a Rife machine. I don't know if you're familiar with a Rife machine.
I have a Rife machine.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Continue.
I'll use that in conjunction with my psychotherapy work. So if anger or grief is the problem emotion, then I'll use the Rife machine to treat the appropriate organ to help with the psychotherapy work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Makes
makes the
sense.
psychotherapy work easier.
100% it would.
Yeah. And so anyway, this woman, I was going through her anatomy chart just with the personal wavelength, and then come across I'm not great with anatomy, and it's kind of good because it helps the auto-suggestion to stay out of the way. If I don't know what's what really.
It's so funny, Peter, because I studied medical intuition for a while. She's like the person I was learning off was like, you have to know the medical anatomy. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if you can figure out what the organ is through the point, like the pendulum, or for me, I just have intuitive hits. What does it matter? You get the answer.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
It
So you
doesn't
see,
matter.
as long as you detect it. And I
Exactly.
picked up something in her bronchial something or other. And then I said, oh, there's something going on there. And I said, you had a cold about a month or so ago, but that's all long gone. She said, oh, yeah, yeah. She said, what's the bronchial bit? And I can't remember the full name. And I said, oh,
Yeah.
well, if you had bronchitis, you'd get it there, She went, when I was a little girl, I used to get what my family used to call emotional bronchitis. Every time I'd go and see my biological father and I'd return home and I'd end up with this emotional bronchitis. I went, oh, that's interesting. And I said, hang on, didn't your biological father just die a few weeks ago? And there's been all this hoo-ha going on in the family about the death and stuff. She went, oh, yeah. So here she's at an emotional or a mental level or a spiritual level. She's gotten in touch with this same condition and it's about to come into reality, but not yet. So what's good is we can treat it while it's still floating in the ether rather having anchored down into the physical. Much easier to treat.
Yeah, 100%. It's like autoimmune. Autoimmune's easier to treat before it becomes an autoimmune, because once it becomes an autoimmune, then it's really hard to shift out of the body and out of the system. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one also, I always surprised myself with it. A couple was bringing their young daughter, she was 12, to me, and she kept getting UTIs. And for a 12-year-old, that's a bit strange. And the Rife machine, it just works like a treat with UTIs, 1 or 2 sessions and it's sorted. And I said, it'd be nice to know why she's getting them, So I went through her anatomy chart, connecting with her personal wavelength, and I ended up at a part of the body which I'd never heard of before. And it was called what was it? I can't remember, tracheal or rachial or something. It was close to the bladder. And I went, something going on in that little part of the body. So then I Googled what that was. I thought, I wonder what that is. And what it is, it's a little tube that connects the bladder to the umbilical cord when the fetus is growing. And then when we're born,
The uterine tube. Yeah.
and that tube is then no use once we're born, so it just collapses. But sometimes it doesn't collapse completely, and at the bladder end there's a little pocket sometimes where urine and gunk gets caught up and causes UTIs. And it's
I love it. I love it so
interesting,
much.
And it's like, oh, who would have thunk it,
Yeah, and I guess that's I do it a similar way. I have a big book which I'll show you after this, but to figure out what's going on. And I guess so when you're tapping into the planes of nature, is it you're tapping into the auric layers? Is that what you mean by the planes of nature, or is it a little bit different?
The planes of nature is moving into a whole nother modality called biogeometry, but you're still using radiesthesia skills in it. So to look at the different planes of nature and testing for all those is really biogeometry. You have to use radiesthesia skills to do the work.
Access it.
Yeah. So it's difficult to go into the biogeometry stuff because it's so complex. It's really, really complex. So I won't go into that. We'll end up lost. It talks about the whole centering principle and creation of universes, and it'll get too far off track.
It's all right. It's okay. We go pretty woo on this show. It's all right.
But with the radiesthesia, we can use it, for connecting to the personal wavelength. So once we've got that connection, then the number of things we can do are pretty limitless. So we can test the anatomy, or we can go through the chakras and see which chakra is out of whack. We
Yeah.
can go through all the meridians and the acupuncture points. What I also do with the radiesthesia work is I do remote acupuncture work. Now, I'm not an
Oh.
acupuncturist. I wouldn't be able to stick needles in people. But what I can do is I can get someone's personal wavelength and test the different acupuncture points, and then I will put them into an acupuncture doll, right? And then this person's witness is attached to the doll.
Is it? I know this
So it's
sounds a
like
bit weird.
a good voodoo doll, if you like.
Thank you. I was going to say, is it like voodoo? I didn't want to say it and be offensive, but that's the
No, no,
first thing that came in my head.
it's exactly what it is, really. Yeah, it's just done in a finesse
Supportive way.
sort of way. Yeah, in a supportive way, and with finesse and this acupuncture point.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I love that it's you can do it remotely. That'd be so powerful, especially for people that are are quite unwell and can't come and see you physically. It's such a
Yeah,
good bridge that you can still work on them, and especially to get acupuncture if they're physically immobile or they're stuck in a hospital bed or something like that. It'd be really powerful to be able to shift things that way too.
yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what Rife machine you have, whether you can do a biofeedback with yours.
I do. I have a
Yep.
spooky too.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Same. Yep. And
Same.
so you can do and I used to do the biofeedback. I've got the new equipment and I've got the old equipment. And so I learnt that using the old software, pre-2017 software, and the old equipment did much better, more accurate biofeedback results.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
it does, but it takes 45 minutes of the person just being perfectly still. Nowhere near as easy to use as the newer equipment.
6-minute new one. Yeah.
Yeah, but the results just are so much better with the old stuff. You just got to, drag people through it. But now I do less and less of that, and I use radiesthesia for testing now. So if I'm testing for pathogens, there's a few different ways we can do it. So what I do is I'll get witnesses of pathogens. So I have a little library of pathogens. So
And when you say witnesses, is it the energetic signature of them? Is that what you mean?
just photos,
Oh, it's photos. Oh,
just like a
okay.
photo of a person. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So that is, what's that one? Lentivirus. This is
Oh,
Borrelia.
interesting. I have no idea what that is.
And so these ones I collected, this little group and this is enterovirus. These are the ones that are the usual suspects for chronic fatigue.
Okay.
So there's about a dozen of them that are the usual suspects. So there's a few different ways I can test if that is in someone's system or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I can either use what's called a corrected Turenne ruler. Turenne was another radiesthesia guy back in history. And using that, you put the witness of the pathogen and the witness of the person, and you simply just put the pendulum in search position in between them. The corrected one, it has a polarizer pattern, but you can just do it on the north-south axis. You don't need anything special. You just put one in the north, one in the south, and have them about 10 centimeters apart or something, and then just go in the search position between the two. And if there's a resonance between those two witnesses, it will get pulled.
Yeah.
And if there isn't, it won't.
Yeah.
So I'll do it that way, or I find a more accurate way of doing it is just like I connected to your personal wavelength earlier, I will connect to the personal wavelength of this pathogen, right? And so I'll tune the pendulum to it. And then I bring the pendulum in the search position over the top of the witness of the person and see if there's any resonance there. Because what we're testing for is resonance, yeah? And then it'll give a good information. So it's interesting. A woman was seeing me for her frozen shoulder, and I was using the Rife machine for treating it. And she was getting pretty good results. We were just
Sorry,
mixing
I'm
along.
laughing. I'm laughing because I have a permanent shoulder problem. That's
Oh,
why
do
I
you?
was laughing that
Do you
you
use
picked
your Rife
frozen
machine
shoulder.
for it?
I do. I have it on, I think but I have something called Erb's palsy. So it's like nerve damage. So it's on like a different I have like a customized program I just run now for it.
Right.
But yeah, but it's just funny that that's what you chose, a frozen shoulder.
Out of all the things. So with
Out of
frozen,
all the things.
yeah, she was making this progress. It was okay, but not as good as what I wanted. Like she was,
Yeah.
when she first came in, she could only lift like this, and then she could lift like this, so it was much better, but still not as much as I wanted. And then, so I was looking through the Spooky 2 database and through frozen shoulders to search, and then come up in the search results was Streptococcus pyogenes. And I thought,
Oh,
what is this doing in a frozen shoulder search result? So then I Googled Streptococcus pyogenes, and yep, it contributes to frozen shoulder, plus a lot of other conditions in people.
how interesting.
And
Yeah.
so then using radiesthesia, I tested if Streptococcus pyogenes was in her system, and it was. And then I tested it with the anatomy chart to see what part of her body it was in. And obviously it was in her shoulder was where it was concentrated. So then went back to the Rife. So I didn't treat it with radiesthesia, went back to the
Yeah.
Rife machine and treated it with killing the pathogen Streptococcus pyogene.
And then her
And then her
shoulder could move.
shoulder just, yeah, it went leaps and bounds in improvement.
Yeah, I love that you combined all these different modalities together, Peter, with the psychotherapy and then the radiesthesia and then Rife machine. So if anyone hasn't is like, what are they talking about with the Rife machine? It's a machine that sends frequencies into your body that helps shift ailments, really. Or, I use it because I had a lot of issues with my teeth and it got rid of all the plaque on my teeth. It had got rid of my gum infection. I use it for so many things. You can run multivitamin protocols through it. Anyway, it's amazing. And
Yeah.
it does even more things than that. And it just works purely on frequency. And then what we're talking about with biofeedback is you can scan your bodies for its frequency. And that's how you get an idea of what you need to put input back in. But also you can do it remotely. I don't know if you have the remote one, Peter.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you would because you work remotely anyway. But you can put your fingernails in or your toenails, and then it will actually still run the frequencies on that because of quantum entanglement and the idea of that you're still connected to your DNA, even though your fingernails that might be a few hundred kilometers away, it'll still work. So
Yeah.
it's very cool. And then you've got this extra practice on top, which I love it because it's like you found a way to measure what I do intuitively. That's how I see it because I kind of get like hits, like my hits will be words, like I'll actually get the words and then I'm like, what is that? Like you said, you'll go Google what it is and you're like, oh, but I don't really have a way to prove it. Whereas you have your radiesthesia and you can channel it through. So that's what I meant. I'm like, you have the way to measure what I do, which is really cool.
Yeah, it is so interesting the way you can, and the thing is also we've got problems going on within us, but it's also our
Mm.
environment that we live in, and so I'll be treating someone, but they might be sleeping on a memory foam mattress, and they
Oh,
and their
yes.
diet's all shot, and they
Yeah.
might be on a Earth grid line. I don't know if you know about the Earth grid lines, the
Hmm.
Hartman grids, the Curry grids, and the Blanket cube grids.
Oh, that's more grids than I know about, but there's a lot of grids.
Yeah. But all those ones are basically detrimental. So they all have the vertical negative green.
How
So
interesting.
negative green isn't negative. It's just the opposite of green, as I was saying before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
negative green itself is a carrier wave. Yeah. And
Yeah.
horizontal negative green is really helpful and beneficial. All the horizontal waves of any color band. So we come back to the color band we originally started talking about. So all of those colors have both vertical and horizontal aspects to them.
Yeah.
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 And all horizontal are good. Not all vertical are bad, but all bad ones are vertical. So there's different pendulums for testing just for horizontal and vertical. And so these are biogeometry tools. So this one's for testing just for vertical wave bands and only those, so that we can test in earth grids going through people's bedrooms and stuff. And this one's just for testing the horizontal, and we can tune it into whatever color band we want to test for. Yeah. So ideally, if someone's seeing me for health issues, then I like to also clear up their place so we can detect where the earth grids are running through their living space. Yeah. And
Mhm.
you really don't want to be sleeping on a Hartman grid or a Curry line or a Blanker line. because it's just going to cause more problems. So it just keeps bringing people back into illness.
This is so fascinating. Because my son's bedroom, he finds it really hard to sleep in there. And I've cleared like the space energetically. Like there's always this imbalance of energy in there. And now I'm curious if his bed is on one of these lines. And I'm just like, possibly,
So
possibly.
there's different
So
ways of testing. Yeah. So you
yeah,
can use the biogeometry tools of the horizontal pendulum and the vertical pendulum. But as I've become more and more experienced, I use the vertical pendulum less and less, because whenever you're detecting something, you're entering into resonance with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Whenever I tune
yeah.
into something, I'm entering into resonance with it. So I don't want to spend too much time entering into resonance with toxic stuff. Now, Chamaray and De I never say his name because the other fella, when they were fiddling with the carrier wave negative green, they didn't separate the vertical from the horizontal. They didn't correct the vertical. And they were doing things like putting dome shapes in series. So at any pyramid shape and a dome shape, both of them will emit a negative green through the base, both horizontal and vertical, which is fine, except if you don't correct the vertical negative green, then it can become very toxic. And what Chamaret and Belazel were doing was they were amplifying it by stacking a dozen or so domes, wooden domes, all together in a line. And Chamaret died from the toxins of the vertical negative green because he just entered into
Wow.
too much resonance with it, which is a real shame. So
Wow.
back to testing
Wow.
for lines in someone's house, I tend not to do it with the vertical pendulum because I want to take care of myself. So another way of doing it is just by using the neutral pendulum, and I can tune into my own personal wavelength, right? And then say it's there, and then I can walk
Yes,
the
that
perimeter
is
of the
fun.
room, put my focus of attention on each spot as I'm going. And what will happen when I come across a detrimental line is the pendulum will then start to swing backwards because it'll be weakening
Because
my
it's not in
system.
yeah, it's not in resonance with you. Yeah,
Well, I don't
that's
have to
very cool.
directly enter. It's already affecting me anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But all I'm doing is I'm getting a bit of a canary in the coal mine to let me know that I'm being affected. Yeah.
yeah,
Whereas I have a
yeah.
friend, she's very sensitive to, EMFs.
Okay.
She feels it all over the place. I don't feel it anything. I'm
Yeah,
blunt to it all, really.
same. I actually wear yeah.
So
I wear
this,
stuff to try and balance, I
right.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this helps me become, oh, my system's been weakened here. So I must have just crossed a line. So then I map out
Mm,
the different corners of the different spots where it comes into the room. And what you'll find in any room is there'll be lines that run, the Hartman grids run north, south, and east, west. And the Curry lines run northeast, southwest, and southwest, or the other way, southeast, northwest. And so without using the vertical pendulum, I can just use my personal wavelength to see the effect it has on me. And then we can correct it.
mm,
So we can
that's
correct it
amazing.
by putting different crystals. My
Yeah.
favorite one, if I'm using stones to correct it, would be indigo gabbro, because it's very good at transmuting negative energy into positive energy, and it doesn't become impregnated very easily.
So
It
it's
will
like
eventually.
it's just like a cleansing channel almost.
Yeah. And so what it does is turns that what was a toxic energy band into a more beneficial one.
Yeah.
And if you use
Wow.
biogeometry techniques, then that actually brings in the centering principle, makes it very strongly beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This is so fascinating. I'm also conscious we could talk all night.
We go on forever. I don't know how long we've been talking for.
So as we start to finish up, Peter, if I ask my guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Something, right.
Yeah, it can be anything. I know it's a tricky question.
Then I would love for people to be able to become aware of how to notice how we are causing ourselves damage with a lot of the modern technology of EMF. I'm not against technology itself, but we could construct it using different quality of waves so that's
Mm,
actually beneficial, not destructive. And
mm,
I would love
mm.
if people would become aware of it. so that we could then just, all these phone towers could actually be beacons of beneficial waves, not toxic waves and that sort of
Instead of
thing.
fake ethers. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. 100%. And I think a lot of people don't actually realize the detriment it does have, and, so many people, they're like, I can't sleep. I'm like, where's your phone? Oh, next to my head when I'm sleeping. It's like,
Yeah.
well, that's number one concern, So, no, I fully understand what you mean, Peter. And if people want to connect with you or come and find you, where's the best place that they can find you?
Probably my psychotherapy website, which is hypnotherapyqueensland.com. That's the easiest way to find me. I'm
Perfect.
also on Facebook and Instagram. For my energy work, the Instagram and Facebook, it's In the Flow, direct total health. In the Flow Total Health is my title that I use for the energy work.
I'll make sure to put it in the show notes as well so that people can come and find you really easily. But thank you so much for explaining radiesthesia. I was like, I think I've got it now. And just, it's so fascinating. Honestly, I could
Oh,
keep asking you questions.
been good talking to you, and it's good. We've got a lot of crossover, common ground there too.
And yeah, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, Peter. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.